What's up, y'all? It's your boy Jaron Ikner back again with another video for Starstruck TV. This time we're talking about the new album from Conway The Machine called From King to God. Now, I will say this, starting this video off, Griselda and their entire movement, these guys are basically the darlings of the golden era traditional hip-hop sound right now in 2020. The reason of this is because they stay true to the traditional sounds of hip hop, mostly boom bap, so heavy samples, crazy bars. Kind of where hip hop kind of came from originally, and that's why these guys are really reveled right now. If you're an old hip hop head, or if you appreciate the older sound of hip hop, when I say old, I mean like traditional boom bap, 2/4 kick snare type stuff. I'm not talking about the modern sound with crazy synthesizers and rolling hi-hats and syncopated beats. We're talking about that grimy stuff, right? These guys are basically on the forefront of that sound right now, which is beautiful because a lot of people have been complaining over for years now about hip hop being dead, the new class not appreciating hip hop, yada yada yada. With that in mind, these dudes are older, so they're not like teenagers running around trying to do this. And that's another reason why this is being appreciated, because this really is for cats like me in my age range. I'm in my mid-30s. I grew up on this sound, and these guys are about to go on a run. I think Griselda they're dropping releases every week for the next month, so we're gonna get a lot of dope content from these dudes. And Conway's up first, and this album, it feels like to me literally like a late 1999 to mid 2000 tentpole AAA hip-hop release. And it's really cool. It's refreshing because of the fact that all the beats are kind of epic sounding. I think Hit Boy handles a lot of the production on there, who, by the way, Hit Boy is currently producer of the year. We can argue that in the comments, but Hit Boy is currently producer of the year. The soundscape on this takes me back. Takes me back to when I was in high school and I was going to Sam Goody or the Warehouse, buying these albums, sitting down and listening to these front to back stories. The album starts off with Kevin Nash, you know what I'm saying? Which is like it's not for the kids. The kids don't know who Kevin Nash is. And it's things like that I was like, man, this album it's for me. And I really, really appreciate it, which is why I even making this video, because this is low-key one of the best albums out. Album of the year contender. I really also appreciate the guest appearances on here. They have Lloyd Banks on here. Lloyd Banks has bruh, it's crazy. It's crazy. And it's something that I really feel we need to appreciate and kind of, I wouldn't say put on a pedestal, but this sound, a lot of people were complaining like, oh no, traditional hip hop's dying. We're not appreciating the bars, not appreciating the production and the storytelling. And it's like, all right, bet, here it is. We need to support it, right? So that's part of the reason why I'm making this video, because I really think that if you are out here in my comment section complaining about the sound of hip hop and Nas and saying that Nas' album is great and all, and we need more of that, this is another album that you definitely need to check out and support. With that said, I don't think that this album is going to cause any waves. You know what I'm saying? I'm not expecting like the new class to hear this album and be like, oh, I need to start making boom bap now, because this album's not really aimed at them. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like you really have to have an appreciation for hip hop for what he has going on here. He has like I said, there's crazy appearances on here from dudes like Lloyd Banks and Method Man. These are some of the greatest rappers of all time, but not to the new school. Like if you're listening to Lil Uzi Vert as like a 17-year-old, right, and if you go and listen to this album, you're gonna be completely lost. And you know what? That's okay, because I think that's one of the biggest issues that I'm seeing in this whole argument of the new generation of hip hop and trap beats and boom bap and all that stuff, is that, you know what, like, these kids are gonna do what they're gonna do, and we're not here to force feed this stuff in front of their face. And that's like one of the biggest complaints that people are having about Nas's album, right? Is that, he had tracks on there with like Lil Durk and stuff. And people are like, well, why are you doing songs with Lil Durk? I mean, he could do what he wants, but it lends to the argument that we're trying to build a bridge that doesn't necessarily need to be built. Like, let's just have the music be what the music is. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that hip hop, relatively speaking, is still a very young genre of music. It's going kind of through its like teenage stage right now, right? It's kind of going through its teenage years where, you know, kind of rebellious, kind of not thoughtful, you know what I'm saying? Very inward, very self. Overall, it's something that is going to take time to really get to the mature level. And, you know, we're seeing some of our favorite artists that we grew up with become older, right? And this is the first time that we're kind of seeing this. That's why I said this is a new genre in those regards. Is that, like, you know, Jay-Z's 50, right? You know, Eminem is getting up there. You know what I'm saying? All these rappers that we grew up with are getting to the old head area, right? Like the old gray silver area, whatever you want to call it, right? And when you compare that to other genres, you know, you have like the Rolling Stones, who have dudes who are like 80 years old who are still touring, right? Jazz music, they have, you know, most of the jazz musicians are old as hell doing their thing. Newer jazz musicians are still doing their thing, but to get that legacy and that clout, you kind of have to be in that grind for a minute. Hip hop, it's like the opposite. And it's the only genre that really does this right now, where it's like, oh, if you're past, it used to be if you're past the age of 30, you were done, right? Like it was like, oh, the Game famously said, you're 36 and you're still rapping, right? Like that bar did not age very well when you look at the fact that it was a very ignorant thing to say that this, oh, if once you reach 30 years old, hip hop is done for you and you got to retire, right? Like when you look at artists like Conway, Griselda, the Black Thought, Jay-Z, Nas, Eminem, all these artists who are past that point, even the current crop of artists that are killing it, from the Kendrick Lamars, J. Cole's, and Drake, they're all over 30 years old, right? And so that plays a really big role in like what's happening in the shift to hip hop, because as these artists get older and as these legends get to older legendary status, we have to decide if we're going to appreciate them for what they've offered and what they still have to offer. I think part of the reason why we don't get a lot of Jay-Z music is because Jay-Z be getting ethered, pun intended, every time he drops an album because he's too old, right? And so he dropped 444 and people are like, oh, I guess that's cool. But it's like, dog, what do you want these people to rap about? And then people complain about Eminem for the same reason, where it's like, oh, Eminem just raps to be rapping. He ain't saying anything. He's just rapping, rapping, right? But he's doing it for the love. And he's trying, you know what I'm saying? He's still trying to say things. He's been dropping some incredible verses this year. And his album, it was okay. And I think that with Nas, it's the same thing. Like, he's been in this game for a long time. He dropped Illmatic when he was, 16 years old? I'm sure someone's going to fact check me on that. But he's been in this game for a very long time, my dude. And now he's an old head. And now he's trying to talk to y'all. And either we're going to appreciate that or not, but they're still going to do it because this is what they love to do, and that's what this is all about, right? It's about the expression, it's about the art, it's about the storytelling, which is what music really is. Going back, that was a long tangent. I'm sorry about that. But going back to this Conway album, it's something that you must kind of appreciate if you are a true fan of hip-hop. And if you're not a true fan of hip-hop, at least give it a spin. It's okay. Because right now, you have to admit that hip-hop now is not the same as what hip-hop was. And that's okay. But, you know, these artists, these Uzi Verts and the Mulattoes and all these artists that are popping right now, some of them really appreciate it and some of them don't. And it kind of shows. I've been watching the Double XL freestyles, which maybe I'll do another video on those here soon. But, yeah, man, I don't know. This whole video wasn't even really about the Conway album, because I think the album's incredible. You should check it out. This is more about the conversation about old heads versus new heads, traditional hip-hop versus modern hip-hop, trap beats versus boom bap, and what these dudes are trying to do to, like, I wouldn't say bridge the gap, but represent something that is the foundation of it all. But let me know what you think in the comments. You know, like, subscribe, all that stuff. We really appreciate y'all. Make sure you check out my new EP, Arizona Kanye 3. It's out now. I post a link in the comments. There's also a video out for my single, Xerox. Check that out. Let me know what you think. I love y'all. Thanks. Peace.